Good day to all. In this presentation, I will be discussing an essential concept that is widely used in the field of programming. My goal is to provide a clear explanation, show practical examples, and help you understand how this concept is applied in real-world scenario. Thank you, and let's get started. For loop presentation. What is a for loop? A for loop is a control flow statement for specifying iteration which allow code to be executed repeatedly. A for loop is a command in programming that lets you repeat a set of instructions many times automatically. A for loop has two parts of a header specifying the iteration and body, which is executed once per iteration. A for loop has a header where you set how the loop will run, start and step, and a body, which is the code inside the loop. The body runs every time the loop repeats. The header often declares an explicit loop counter or loop variable, which allows the body to know which iteration is being executed. In the header, you usually create a loop counter like in in for int I equals 0, I greater than 5, I plus plus. This counter lets the code inside the loop know which number or step it is currently on. For loops are typically used when the number of iteration is known before entering the loop. You use a for loop when you already know how many times the loop must repeat. Example, repeat something 10 times. For loops can be thought of as shorthands for a while loop, which increment and test a loop variable. A for loop is basically a shorter, cleaner way of writing a while loop that increases the loop counter and check if the loop should continue every time is placed merely in one line. Syntax of for loop. The general syntax of for loop varies slightly depending on the programming language, but it typically consists of three main components: initialization, condition, and increment or decrement. Initialization sets the starting value often by creating and assigning a variable. Condition determines how long the loop will run. The loop continues as long as this condition is true. Increment or decrement updates the variable after each loop cycle, usually increasing or decreasing. Into next page. Sample program. int n equals 10 for loop for int I equals 1, I greater than plus n plus plus I. System point out and print ln. Life is good. Here we are to sample program to try in NetBeans. In for loop, int n equals 10, this sets the variable n to 10. It represents how many times the loop will run. For int I equals 1, I greater than equals n, I plus, this is the for loop. int I equals 1, the loop starts with I equal to 1. I greater than equals n, the loop continues as long as is less I than or equal to 10. Plus plus I, after each loop is I increased by 1. System point out point print ln. Life is good. This line is executed every time the loop runs. Since the loops runs 10 times, the message life is good will be printed 10 times. Life is good and times. Thank you for listening. See you in next video. Do-while loop presentation. What is a do-while loop? A do-while loop is a control flow statement that executes a block of code at least once and then repeatedly execute the block or not depending on a given Boolean condition at the end of the block. Some language may use a different naming convention for this type of loop. Function. Do-while loop execute a block of code at least once and then repeatedly runs the code as long as the specified Boolean condition is true. The condition is checked at the end of the loop, which guarantees the code is inside the loop body will run at least one time, even if the condition initially false. 1 executes at least once, 2 checks condition at the end, 3 repeats if the condition is true, 4 exits if the condition is false. Common use. 5 common use cases. Syntax. The do-while loop is a variant of the while loop. The loop will execute the code block once before checking if the condition is true, then it will repeat the loop as long as the condition is true. And we go back to sample of do-while loop. And here we are to try the do-while loop in NetBeans. In do-while loops example, int a equals 1 is this line sets the starting value of the variable a. The loop will begin with a equals 1. Do braces point braces. The do block contains the code that will run at least once no matter what. Everything inside the braces will be executed before the condition is checked. System point out print ln Merry Christmas. This prints Merry Christmas to the screen each time the loop runs. A++. This increases the value of a by 1 every time the loop repeats. Example 1, 2, 3 into 8. While a greater than equal 8. This is the loop condition after each loop cycle. The program checks wherever a is still less than or equal to 8. If true, the loop repeats. If false, the loop stops. And we will run it. There. And that is the sample of do-while loop. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in next video. And here we back again in discussing while loop. What is a while loop? The while loop is a fundamental control flow structure or loop statement in programming, enabling the execution of block of code repeatedly as long as specified condition remains true. Unlike the for loop, which is tailored for iterating a fixed number of times, the while loop excels in scenarios where the number of iterations is uncertain or depend on dynamic conditions. What is function of while loop? A while loop is a fundamental control flow structure in programming, enabling the execution of a block of code repeatedly as long as a specified condition remains true. While loops works by repeatedly executing a block of code as long as a specified condition remains true. It evaluates the condition before each iteration, executes the code block if the condition is true, and it terminates when the condition becomes false. This mechanism allows a flexible iteration based on changing condition within a program. Number 1. Condition evaluation. 2. Block execution. 3. Conditional evaluation. 4. Loop termination. And syntax of while loop. Condition is the expression or condition that is evaluated before each iteration. If the condition is true, the code block inside the loop is executed. If the condition is false, initially the code block is skipped, and the loop terminates immediately. The code block inside the loop is ended and contains the statement to be executed repeatedly when the condition remains true. And we're going to try NetBeans while loop. Here we are in NetBeans to try while loop sample. int count equals to 0. This creates a variable named count. It starts with the value 0. This variable will be used to control how many times the loop repeats. While count greater than 7, this is the condition of the while loop. The loop will keep running as long as count is less than 7. When count becomes 7, the condition becomes false and the loop stops. System point out point print and count. This prints the current value of count to the screen. Example, output order 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Count plus plus. This increases the value of count by 1 every time the loop runs. This is important so the loop will eventually stop. Without this, the loop would run forever, infinite loop. And here we are in sample, and thank you to listen my discuss.